Hey guys, it's your girl Night Latte here, and you're listening to another exhilarating episode of Girl Chat. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, feel free to follow me right here on Spotify. You can also find me on Amazon Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts, Podcast Bean, as well as Apple Podcasts, or wherever you hear all of your content. So today, it is the last final hours of 2023, and I know I've been leaving you guys hanging since July, but one of my resolutions for the new year is to get more girl timing with you guys. Let you guys know what's going on, get your thoughts, have some new episodes, and who knows, maybe some live content as well. No, I'm not talking sex tapes. So with 2 hours going into the new year, I am just going to get into some things that I learned because it has been a very, very interesting year. The first thing I learned is definitely one of the most difficult lessons that one will learn, which is in life, never force people to choose because you'll never be the choice. And with that being said, most of this is pertaining to friendships and relationships. Earlier this year, I lost not one, but two of my friends. They surprisingly are together, and I lost them both to each other. One I've known over 10 years, and one I've known 11 years, mostly due to their inability to balance. With one, I felt like the minute they got into the relationship, they just kind of threw away the friendship. They stopped caring, they stopped being present, they stopped reciprocating the friendship. And I guess for me, I'm not the kind of friend that needs you to talk to me every single day or every single moment. But we shouldn't go 2, 3 months without talking. Or when something happens, there shouldn't be a case where you're not checking in. Or it shouldn't be the case where it's one-sided and we only talk if I'm doing all the work. So I just kind of decided to separate myself from that friendship and just kind of focus on other aspects. I tried to build a bridge. It wasn't really reciprocated. So other than try to force a situation, realizing that work has to come from both parties, I just decided to kind of let that go. And as much as I will always miss the friendship we had and miss the times we had together, I just kind of decided that the best thing is to just kind of leave them where they're at and wish them the best and kind of love them from afar. The other person is the person they're in a relationship with. We were friends for about, I want to say about 11 years. We were friends about 11 years. And I think the first rift in our friendship kind of started with social media. Mostly not in the catty way you would think. It wasn't like subliminal posting or he say, she say. It wasn't any of that stuff. If anything, it was more so the fact that I'm not a big social media person. A lot of you that followed me back when I had Instagram will notice that I don't really have Instagram anymore. I am going to redo the @NightLatte or @GirlChat Instagram page, but I took it down as well as my personal page, and I deactivated my Facebook for a while just to kind of take like a mental health break because, life, we all need that. And I guess for my prior friend, she takes social media really seriously. Like, if you're not on her social media, then you're just automatically taken out of her real life. And I guess for me, when I reached out to her prior, like earlier this year, I didn't realize how serious she took the social media thing until she kind of lashed out. and said like, oh, well, you unfollowed me on Instagram, so I figured we weren't cool anymore because, like, if you unfollow me on Instagram, then you unfollow me in real life. And I literally was taken aback because social media isn't that serious for me. If you're my real friend, you have my phone number. If you really want to talk to me, you can call me or you can text me directly. It shouldn't be, we only care about each other's lives for likes. So I did feel slightly away about that. And, being mature, we're in our 30s. I decided that, instead of texting back and forth on Messenger, I'll just call you. Like, I'll call you, we can have a conversation. So we had the conversation, and I just felt like the vibe was real off because I'm trying to empathize with how you feel, and I'm trying to see their point of view, but the back of my mind, I'm like, this is stupid. Like, you're really upset with me because I don't follow you on Instagram, but you have my phone number. So if you ever really needed to talk to me or really wanted to know what's going on with me, you could just reach out. It shouldn't be if I'm not posting it that you don't care. So, well, we did try to come back from that. For me, it just never was the same feeling after because it kind of felt like she valued the social media following, the likes, the views, more than you actually value you as a friend. And if the only way to be your friend means I have to be present on social media to be friends with you, then I'd rather just not be friends with you. If you're willing to throw away 11 years of me being there for you over likes and views and followers, then I guess the friendship was never really real, or at some point it stopped being real. So on that note, I just kind of had to let that go as well. But it also, I would say overall as a unit, it just kind of felt like they got so wrapped up in each other that there was no room for friends. And while I would have loved to be there and celebrate all of their milestones, I'm just not going to force myself on people if the friendship is really, really one-sided. And I still love them both. I wish them all the best in life. It's just not for me. And if I was to ever cross paths with them in life, it's all love. It's no malice, it's no hate, it's no negativity. It's all love. It's just one of them things where I just have to learn to love you from afar. And then in the later half of this year, as early as like a month ago, I also kind of lost a really good friend I would say we've been friends since 2009. Mostly due to, this was a guy friend. His girlfriend wasn't really comfortable with our friendship because him and I were so close. We talked about everything. We talked all the time. And at first, while they had broken up, they still lived together. So me just kind of knowing how she was towards our friendship and just knowing the way things were going with them, I had given him the opportunity to kind of end the friendship. If you really want to be with her and she's not comfortable with us being cool and you can't be cool with me, I totally get it. I understand. I respect that because in the game of love and friendship, I'm never going to win if I make you choose. So I'd rather just bow out the competition altogether. Fortunately, sorry. At the time, he told me, like, no, the friendship is, our friendship is way more valuable. Like, I wouldn't do you like that. And I always kind of put it in the back of my mind that they live together. They're probably still sleeping together. Like, there's no way that he's just going to be in the same house with her and I'm thousands of miles away and he's just going to be like, oh, well. I always kind of had in the back of my mind, like, they're going to work it out at some point and she's going to make him choose. And of course, they live together. They have a life together. He is not going to choose me over that. And I really wouldn't ask him to choose me. So we talked for a while, kind of during his breakup. I checked in just, see how he's doing, what's his, plan moving forward, because they live together. There's like, they don't have a kid together, but like, she has a kid, they have kids involved. And I was just kind of checking on his mental state, like seeing how he's holding up, seeing if there's any chance they could reconcile, because, I love for people. So it's like, if you can work it out with her, work it out with her. And then all of a sudden, about 2 weeks ago, I went to write him just, hey, how's work? And I noticed there's no response. That's not really uncommon because he works like 100 hours a week. So it's not uncommon for him not to answer me until like later on that day, like the next day, because he's working a lot or he's asleep. But when like a week had gone by and I'm like, hey, just checking in, just seeing how you're doing. I haven't heard from you. And again, message went unanswered for days. So during the last message I sent was about 3 days before Christmas. I knew he wouldn't be seeing his kids until like after Christmas. And I'm like, hey, just saying happy holidays to you and your kids. Like, I know as a parent, Christmas shopping is fucking crazy. Like, but happy holidays. Like, I miss you. I hope you're doing good. And then again, just no messages, no answer, no read message, no nothing. So I just kind of was like, okay, it's clear you really just aren't answering me. But I also didn't want to be that person that's like, oh, well, you just ignore me. I'm like, oh, he could be hurt. He could be, an accident or something could have happened. So I have 2 phones. I decided to call from my other phone because he didn't have that number. So I, took it back to 2003. I blocked the number and I called to see if he'd answer. And when he called and answered, like regular answer, like, yo, what's up? Who this? I'm like, I just didn't even say anything. I'm just looking at the phone like, okay, so you're not dead. You just aren't answering me. So then I just hung up. I didn't say anything, didn't get all dramatic. I just hung the phone up because A, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're safe. But B, I'm also kind of like annoyed because you're just choosing to ignore me. And kind of what I always knew in the back of my mind would happen kind of ended up happening. They got in a better space, and in order for them to be in a better space, she kind of told him he couldn't talk to me anymore. So rather than just tell me himself, like, yo, I'm not really trying to talk to you anymore because, my girl don't like it, he just decided to just ghost. So I guess at the end of the day, one of the biggest lessons I learned of 2023 was when people are in love, you can almost kind of guarantee that your friendship won't last anymore because it's just what I find some people's nature. They can't balance or they won't balance. And at the end of the day, the best friend in the world is not going to replace the person that has your heart, mind, body, and soul. So, don't compete where you don't compare. The second lesson I say that I learned this year was it's okay to be done with people. Like, I know between Tyler Perry movies and churches will have you thinking that, you have to forgive everyone for everything they do to you. And in reality, you really don't. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I'm never going to tell you to hang on to the anger, hang on to the heart, let it fester. No, because that shit will eat away at you, and you'll feel sad, and you'll feel miserable all the time. And I mean, nobody wants that. But it's okay to just be done with people and to kind of just let it go without harboring any bad feelings or harboring any negativity. It's just kind of seeing people for who they are and just kind of leaving it there. I definitely would say that I had someone teach me this lesson, an old friend of mine, and I had reconnected after not seeing each other for 7 years. I've been on speaking, we're just seeing each other for 7 years. We had reconnected briefly, and I know that the biggest problem I had with this person was they weren't very vocal. Whenever we would have disagreements or anything, they just wouldn't speak to you. Instead of having a conversation or telling you they don't like something, they just wouldn't talk to me at all. And the last time they did that had been 10 years ago when we were in college. So with us reconnecting, we were cool. We talked every day. We talked all the time. Had some really deep conversations. And then we had a particular conversation, and I made a joke. You guys know, if you've been listening to me for a while, that I have a very obscure sense of humor. Like, certain things that I guess shouldn't be funny are funny to me. So I made a joke one day, being sarcastic, and mind you guys, this person knows me. They didn't just meet me yesterday. They've known me for years. So I made a joke. They didn't like the joke, I guess. And rather than tell me, like, I don't think the joke you said was funny or appropriate for the conversation we were having, they just didn't speak to me anymore. And I had noticed it had been like 5 days and we hadn't spoken. So when I finally reached out to her, I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? I haven't really heard from you. And that's when she decided to tell me that, the last time we talked, I didn't really like the joke that was made, so I just felt it best to not say anything. Now, mind you guys, a lot of my friends are in their 30s. Like, we are grown-ups. We got careers. Some of us got kids, husbands, wives, families. So, to me, it just read very immature to just not speak to me for days because you didn't like what I said. Or you didn't like a joke I made. When you could have just told me in the moment, like, yo, it wasn't funny. Like, you're trying to be funny and it's not really hilarious. So, imagine my surprise where I find out, like, hey, so we didn't talk for days because you didn't like what I said last week. I'm like, at this point, I've smoked so much weed, I don't remember what I said last week. But, like, you really could have just told me that. Like, that's why I haven't heard from you. And her whole way of thinking was just like, oh, well, I didn't know what to say, so I just felt it best to not say nothing. But we're supposed to be friends. We've talked about so many other things from, mental health stuff to crisis, self-harming, everything we've spoken about. And you mean to tell me you can talk to me about being depressed, but you can't talk to me about not finding a joke I made funny? And then for some reason, it took me right back to that place we were 10 years ago when they did the same thing. And of course, like most people, I got mad. I got mad because it was so stupid, and it was like, we were supposed to be better than that. So to find that we weren't just kind of took me by surprise, because I thought in time and growth we had matured past that. So to find out that that wasn't true was just very irritating. So after we had that conversation, we went kind of back and forth, and then their whole thing was just like, well, I don't really know, like, what you want me to say. And one thing I'm never going to do is beg for an apology from anyone. Like, I'm a firm believer in apologize if you feel like you're sorry and if you feel remorseful. And if you don't, then, you don't. Like, I'm not going to die over it. So at the end of the entire conversation, I just was like, okay, well, thanks for being honest, I guess. Like, now I know what's up. And we tried to perceive as normal after that, but I guess to me, it never really went back to normal, because one thing that you guys love about me is I'm going to be my authentic self all the time. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to say how I feel. No filter. Don't give a fuck. I'm going to say it. And to be in my life, you have to be willing to accept that that's who I am. And anyone around me that wants to censor me, or I have to step on eggshells because if I say the wrong thing, you're not going to speak to me, I don't want that kind of relationship. friendship, dynamic. I don't want that kind of existence with someone that I have to tiptoe around everything I want to say because if I make a wrong step left or right, they're not going to talk to me for weeks. So, while that's not a friendship that I'm not going to say I let it go completely, but it was one of those moments where it was like, I see who you are, and I'm going to leave you right there. Now, do we talk on occasion? We do, but I know for me, it's never been the same. It's never going to be the same because I'm not going to censor myself. So when we do talk, it's very hi, bye, how are you? Oh, okay, cool. It's very one note. Now, in going into the new year, will we talk again? Probably. Will it be the same dynamic as before? Probably not. And it's kind of one of the things where we haven't really spoken for 7 years. So it's like, if we go back to not talking, it's not really like it's a major loss. It's just kind of like somebody I used to know. Like the song, somebody that you used to know. I know I can't sing, but it's kind of that type of situation. Like, that's somebody that I used to know. The last thing I guess I learned in 2023 is really, as long as you're okay with the decisions you're making, that's the only opinion that really matters, because I've done a lot of morally questionable things this year. And it's one of those things where some of the things I did were justifiable to me. And at the end of the day, I'm the one doing them. So if I'm good with it, then it's good for me. Like, I've always had this motto where as long as I can look in the mirror and love that person, then I'm good with it. Like, that's my mantra whenever I make a decision about something. It's like, can I look at myself the same after doing that? And if I know I can't, then I don't do it. If I know I can, then I do it. And some of the things I did, I had to look at myself in the mirror first and be like, girl, will you love you after this? And I'm not gonna lie, guys, 9 times out of 10, the answer was yes. And like the one time it was a no, then I didn't go through with it. But that is my wrap up for the year. There will be more hot and steamy things to come in the next year. You guys, be your best selves. Try something new. Get out there. And as always, catch your girl Night Latte right here on podcast or Spotify. Until next time, guys.